Katrina and Chris came to me looking for their first home. Whether it was finding a house or a mortgage broker, Rebecca helped us through every step of the process of buying a home. We highly recommend Putnam Real Estate.
Whether you're looking for your first home, an investment property, or need to sell, our professional agents and brokers will save you time and money. We're familiar with the local building, zoning, and conservation codes, as well as the financing rules for first-time home buyers. Our success comes from your satisfaction.
My name is Rebecca Putnam, broker-owner of Putnam Real Estate. If you're looking to buy or sell, Putnam Real Estate is here for you.
Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce.
The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
To order, invite you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board has just returned from executive session. We will now be beginning an open session. Any announcements from the board or from members of the administration?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We'll now have time for public comment on any issue that is not on our agenda this evening. Please hold your comments to 2 minutes. Anyone who'd like to make public comment at this time? Mr. Zweig?
Well, I'm back again. Hi, I'm your representative of the Cape Light Compact, and so anytime I...
Sign over.
Oh, upside down, that's right. Well, anyway, that's for the people down under to have a look. But anyway, well, it's a two-sided sign, so... But I'm just calling, you know, as we've noticed, it's gotten getting cold and it's getting darker, and so energy efficiency can save us all a lot of kilowatt hours and money. So the Cape Light Compact has an energy efficiency program, and if you're interested in it, you can start with a kind of survey of your home, followed by different testings that are done, and they have funding to be able to help with improving the energy efficiency in your home, business, rental properties, as well as municipal facilities, which you've seen the streetlights in town and other improvements. And so for those aspects or those entities, you can call 800-797-6699, and as I say, our operators are waiting. But for low-income households, there's also a program by the Housing Assistance Corporation, which is better for low-income groups. It's got better deals basically for those households, and you can contact again the Housing Assistance Corporation at 508-771-5400 to get to have them take up this program. The Housing Assistance Corporation is funded also through the Cape Light Compact that we all contribute to through our electric bills. So anyway, just wanted to thank you. Just like to bring this to the town's attention as often as possible. It's for all of our interest. So thank you.
Anyone else have a comment?
Go ahead. I was going to interrupt.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to be late. I was out chatting with some folks out in the hall. Didn't even know that the meeting began. I just want to add...
Could you just add your name, please?
Oh, my name is Richard Latimer, Precinct 1, town meeting member, former planning board member. I just want to comment on the notion that we should somehow go to the CEC to get some money to tear down the wind turbines. That's just passing the buck. That's spending money to get nothing back. What's the difference for a taxpayer, whether we're a federal taxpayer, a state taxpayer or a town taxpayer, to spend money to get nothing back? That is bad policy. It is fiscally irresponsible. We should be working on ways to keep those turbines running with payment to the complainers if need be. We should, if we can get money from CEC to tear the turbines down, well then we should be able to get money from them to help us mollify with damages the people that are complaining. And that way we keep the benefits, undeniable benefits, of the energy being produced clean energy being produced at no cost to the town in terms of paying bills to the Eversource, I guess, who it is now. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Scheer?
Wait, first you better not have a drink before you conclude these aisles here.
Excuse me, man, just, I thought Ron had already handed me those people. Thank you. Sorry.
Well, good evening. Dan Shearer, Precinct 6, West Falmouth. I have two very small requests tonight, and I'm going to be as quick as I possibly can. The first is to try and get transparency throughout the town. The Enterprise has given us a real problem in only coming out once a week, in that all committee notices aren't in the paper. I've talked to the town clerk about that, and he said it's because they don't have to have them in time for me to get them in the paper when I get them. And my idea would be if we had our town clerk send all chairmen an email on, let's say, Wednesday, of when the meeting would be next week. They don't have to have the agenda, they don't have to have anything, but at least the public would know when the meetings were. And to keep it fair, we are opening all our meetings to people. They should be notified they're there. They are sometimes on the website, they are sometimes not on the website. They are on the board here most of the time. 2 committees last week were not. If we can do those rules, I think it would be much better. Thank you. Number 2.
You have 30 seconds left. You have 30 seconds.
Okay. Well, I came to you 3 years ago about moorings in West Falmouth Harbor. I'll be very quick. We have 182 moorings. 57 of them have not been used in sometimes 5 years, but at least 3 years. Be a heck of a lot better. We have 90 plus people on a waiting list who pay over $10 a year. This is not fair. There are many ways. I suggested a rental plan where the town would get paid a fee for the person who owns the mooring would pay a fee, the town would get the same fee, and a person would get the mooring for the summer.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to see it gone. I've talked to the harbor master. He says that most of the harbors are in the same situation of what West Falmouth is in.
Okay.
There are other ways. The selectmen were in 1996.
Okay, Mr. Shearer, I'm really holding to 2 minutes. You're already up to 3, so thank you very much.
Yep.
Is there anyone else like public comment? All right, we'll now move on to our minutes of our meetings, first from September 28th, 2015, on our regular session. Do we have any corrections from the public session?
I'm sorry, which date?
September 28th?
This is the regular meeting?
Yes.
I think I've already passed my changes over to Jennifer. They were just minor name changes.
So motion to approve with the changes, edits really.
Yes,
from
edits.
Selectman Patterson.
Okay, motion to approve September 28th public session minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, the ayes have it. Next is the September 29th, 2015, the public session minutes. It's the meeting we held at the library.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the September 29th minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Next, the October 5th regular session minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Patterson,
I just have 2 corrections on page 8.
page 8.
Yeah, I've passed these to Jennifer already, but under number 7, it says it says mullions, but those are muntins. Those are those lattice things that go in windows. That needs just to be corrected because I don't know how you would interpret it otherwise. And then I think the next
Mullions?
paragraph,
They're not mullions?
They're
It's
Muntins, M-U-N-T-I-N-S.
Muntins.
Yes. And then in the very next paragraph, it says, Mr. Patterson attended an older women workers and economic security. I think that was Ms. Moran.
Okay.
Motion to approve with those edits.
We have those two corrections. Motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. The ayes have it. We'll now move on to the executive session. First from September 28th. And we have
Make a motion to approve and not release.
a motion to approve and not release the minutes of October 28th.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. Next item are September 29th. Item 1, executive session minutes.
I move approval.
Motion
Second.
and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye. And
Aye.
this is to not release.
Not release, yes.
Okay. That's approved. And finally, item 2 on the executive session, Tuesday, September 29th.
Make a motion to approve and not release.
Motion to
Second.
approve and not release and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. Now move on to our summary of actions. We have 3 items here. We're going to take these separately. The first is to approve the request to extend the seasonal all-alcoholic club license until January 15, 2016 to the Falmouth Yacht Club.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. For the next item, I first want to disclose that my son was a bar back at Landfall Restaurant this summer. He will not be working there at this time during the winter, but we do have a request to extend the seasonal all-alcoholic common victual license until January 2nd, 2016 at the Landfall Restaurant.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Ms. Moffett?
Is there any change in their operating times? There's no change.
Just hours.
I mean, the hours, yeah.
Just the days.
I believe they may be changing on their accord, but not by our license.
Okay. All right.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. And the third is to apply a special one-day liquor license for the Woods Hole Public Library. This is for a concert fundraiser on October 24th, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. Okay, we have 6 items under administrative orders. Please let me know if you'd like me to hold any of these. The first is to accept the scope of work and grant. This is for the CZM Green Infrastructure Grant. That's Chapquoit Beach Planning Study. Next item is to approve the submittal of a proposal to the Southeast New England Program Water Quality Management Grant. Okay. Third is to approve an NSTAR petition to install 1 4-inch conduit and 2 handholds on 67 Gardner Road. Fourth item is to approve the grant agreement for Old Fellows Hall. Fifth item is to approve a conservation restriction at 53 Hunt Street in North Falmouth. Okay. And the sixth is to appoint Paul Murphy as the member of zoning appeals for a 5-year term until June 30th, 2020. And this is actually just a correction from his earlier appointment, which we had listed as a 3-year term, but the Board of Appeals terms are for 5-year terms. And so we've already gone through the interview and appointment. It's just to correct that, make a correction. So I'll entertain a motion on items A, C, D, and F.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. So item B is to the Southeast New England Program Water Quality Management Grant. And I believe we have Ms. Karplas here. So, brief introduction to this grant.
Yes. This is a grant to continue some work that began with the Division of Marine and Environmental Services 2 years ago. In fact, they had wanted to do this as part of the Bouchard oil spill. So it's a project that has been in the sights of the division for several years. It's at Nashawina Bridge. It's a closed area, so this is creating a spawning sanctuary oyster reef. We had a great growing season this year, highly successful, and this grant would allow the town to expand that from about 1/8 to 1/4 of an acre, which it is right now, to about 1/2 to 1 acre, using the same successful process that we use now. And that's what the project is. So this grant would fund that work.
Yes, Mr. Patterson.
A question, when you just say a reef, could you describe what that actually is, what the physical structure is?
Absolutely. A reef is when you have oysters growing on a substrate. So in this case, we start with shell. It's clam shell that has oysters seeded on it, but you can't see them. And over the course of the growing season, these oysters grow on a shell. So it's a three-dimensional oyster growing structure. And then we plant it on the bottom, so the reef has got shell, clam shell, and oysters growing in a three-dimensional way off of that shell. And over time, it develops into a small, structured oysters grow on top of each other system.
Ms. Moffett?
Is it similar to what is happening in Long Pond?
In Little Pond?
Little Pond.
It's actually very, very different. Little Pond, we grow single oysters. We buy seed, we put them in an upweller, and they come out as beautiful commercial grade, the kind of oyster that you buy, at a restaurant. These are a reef, and it's a closed area, so it's a sanctuary. It's a spawning ground. And the oysters are different sizes, and they grow on top of each other, and they're not really as commercially attractive at all. So they're different mechanisms. It's giving us a great opportunity to weigh the pros and cons of each type of growing.
So there's a harvesting for yours?
There's a harvesting in Little Pond. We just did the relay. A couple of selectmen were there to see going from Little Pond into the harvest areas in West Falmouth and Green Pond. The reef is not for harvest. It's going to maintain a structure.
Yep, Ms. Quinn?
See, you mentioned in your description here that you had already applied under the pre-proposal.
That's right.
And now the SNEP, as they say, what is that? The Southeast New England Program, Water Quality Management Grant Program. Now they've determined that it's now appropriate to apply for the full proposal. Does that mean you have a better chance?
We have a very good chance, yes.
A very good chance.
We got good scores, and that's why we're coming. We didn't come before, because before it's a complete jump ball whether they're interested in your ideas. But yes, we have a good chance of getting this grant.
And they give you fairly specific instructions as to what you need to do to improve your score.
Yes.
Sam?
I might mention that this is not exactly an experimental technique. I know in Virginia and Maryland there are shellfish grants, and the oystermen actually collect the shells from their oysters that they've harvested and redeploy them back into the grant area so that the spats grow off of the old shell. So this is something that's been going on for more than 100 years as a way of doing aquaculture. So I see no reason why it shouldn't work. I'm just surprised to see the oysters growing on clam shells. It's kind of an interesting takeoff on it.
Well, I thought it'd be appropriate to mention at this time, since we're talking about oysters, that the World Symposium on Oysters was going to begin next week at the Seacrest, and this is the first time it's being held in the United States. So this is a really big deal. And aside from that, next year, the Japanese printers are going to hold their very first meeting in 60 years in the United States, and it's going to be at Highfield. So Falmouth is going to be celebrating from both ends of the spectrum, from oysters to print, to Japanese print. Just a matter of information.
Sam?
Since we're on this subject, I just want to thank Sia, and I see Chuck Martinson's here, and all those people that participated in relaying the oysters from Little Pond over to, I think they were going to Great Pond, is that what they were
Great
going to
Pond and lots in West Falmouth Harbor.
being transferred so that they can purge themselves of E. coli. But this is a way of clarifying the water, filtering out the algae that's shading the bottom, that's preventing the eelgrass from growing and preventing oysters from growing on the bottom. These oysters are in baskets that float on the surface so that they can actually filter out the algae from the surface, but they can't at this point survive on the bottom. I do want to thank you. I went and witnessed this project, and I think I even had a scout a number of years that participated in the educational program on the upweller, which was kind of neat to see the beginnings and the middle part, and maybe even participate in harvesting someday. For the sake of the public, could you mention when is that family oystering day? Is it coming up or is it past? When they get to actually, in this case, collect oysters out of West Falmouth Harbor, I believe. Correct?
I think that's a good question for Chuck, who I have to say, the Division of Marine and Environmental Services organized an amazing relay. I mean, with volunteers, it was just terrific.
Hello, Chuck Martinson with Marine and Environmental Services. We open up October 1st for anyone to harvest in West Falmouth. We needed to closely keep check of our resources and our time and our volunteers and everything. So what we decided to do was to reach out to those same volunteers that actually we went along with arm in arm last year and harvested with, and had them join us this year in the actual farm, in the farm end of it. So hopefully next year we'll be back there and we'll do another big event around October 1st, which went really well last year, but we wanted to also give people the opportunity to see where the oysters came from and another part of their life cycle, and that really worked well, as you both saw the other day.
Indeed.
So we accomplished that goal.
Indeed you did.
And you also had Brian Switzer filming, and the neighbors came out and were gleeful about the clear water. So there's an impact, and you must have had over 12 people schlepping and waiters, and you ran back and forth from being about an acre or out into the water, back to the truck, and I mean it's really amazing the way the whole community gets together with that. So it's great thing to show the different aspects. So terrific plan.
Thank you. Yeah, it worked well. We had both recreational and commercial, and the residents and people who didn't even shellfish, and we had an age range between 82 and the youngest was 3, so we had the whole generation. Yeah.
And it was about 38 degrees.
Yeah, it was cold.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion?
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second?
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. We're actually now going to move to a public hearing. I know we have one more item in the summary of actions, but our public hearings are timed. It's a 7:30 public hearing. This is an application for a change of manager, a new officer and director, transfer of stock, and new stockholder. This is AM Dining, Inc., doing business as the Golden Swan Indian Cuisine. For the applicant, please, introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For the record, my name is John Kenny. I'm an attorney at the law office in Centerville. I'm here tonight on behalf of AM Dining, Inc. All the papers in this application were filed by the law office of Attorney Theodore Schilling. Attorney Schilling is unable to make it tonight, so I'm kind of pinch hitting for him. My understanding, Mr. Chairman, is that there was an issue regarding publication. I think the only item being moved forward tonight is the change of manager. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'll address the change of manager item then. It's the change of manager. The Thins have owned the restaurant since 2007. They've been operating there. They live upstairs with the son and daughter. The son is off to school now, to college in Boston, but they live above the restaurant. They both spend well over 40 hours a week working in the restaurant. And they're changing, part of this has the change of stock ownership and all of that has to do with some estate planning, the way I understand it from their attorney. So they're looking to change from Melkeet S. Thind as manager to Jaswinder Thind. Jaswinder is here with me this evening with their daughter. She's been a waitress, a bartender, works in the kitchen, does the books. She does it all in the restaurant. She is tip certified, safe serve certified. They have a total of 4 employees. The alcohol food mix is approximately 40% alcohol, 60% food. There'll be no change in the operation, no change in the hours. And we'd ask that you approve the change of manager, and I'd take any questions the board may have.
Any questions from the board? Ms. Moffett?
I would just like to make a comment to you that I was pleased to see the copy of the tip certification. And I think I'm going to say that to each person. When we say, are you tip certified, the answer just comes yes. But you actually gave us a copy of it, so
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Patterson?
Along that line, the same line, I'm just a little bit concerned about the management of other people who may not be tip certified in actually handling alcoholic beverages. I know that's permitted, but management can be very loose or very close, and I just want to encourage people to make sure that they're following the regulations of the state of Massachusetts.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone from the audience who'd like to speak on behalf of the change of manager of this position? Anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to this change of manager? Entertain a motion to close this hearing.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? And what would the board like to do on this matter?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve the change of manager.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? The ayes have it. And we'll come back for those other three items with probably the other attorney. But
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, back to our summary of actions. We have one more to approve the conservation restriction. This is on 53 Hunt Street. Mr. Patterson?
Yeah,
you have a question?
in looking through, was curious to know what the benefit is to the town to grant this conservation restriction. Obviously, it puts it into a different tax category, and it wasn't obvious to me, since the parcel appeared to be surrounded by other residents, what the value was of making a putting a conservation restriction on this portion of that parcel. So I'd like an explanation.
Okay, thank you. I'm Laura Moynihan. I'm an attorney representing the property owner, and I'll just give you a little bit of info here.
Thank you.
This conservation restriction is actually required by the Conservation Commission. It's a condition of an order of conditions to build a house. And in the package that I've given you, the first page shows the location of the property highlighted. The second page shows the plan identifying the land portion of this lot that will be restricted. And the third page, I think Mr. Patterson answers your question, which is the municipal certification that's been signed by the Conservation Commission. There are wetland resources on the property and about the property, so it did require an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission. They describe the public benefit is the protection of the scenic and natural character of the town, will enhance open space value. The protection of the floodplain will ensure the continued availability of the flood storage, protection and enhancement of wildlife habitat, and furtherance of the town of Falmouth's open space and recreation plan. So those are the goals as seen by the Conservation Commission, and again, it is required by the permit, so it's not a voluntary restriction in that fashion.
Thank you.
Ms. Flynn?
Well, I might add too that the property is located in a very low-lying area of Silver Beach, which is certainly subject to flooding. And having gone down there this past weekend, because I've been there for a while, and with the heavy rains, you could see that there was still quite a bit of water, not on that particular property necessarily, but in the surrounding area from the rains. So I think having the conservation restriction there, as Ms. Moynihan said, is a benefit to the town.
And it certainly is these are very old lots that hadn't been developed. It's a heavily vegetated area, so even, from a practical point of view, just for the bird and other wildlife habitat, having that area of the lot protected would be a benefit to wildlife habitat. So.
And where's the house that's
the house in the second page that has the plan of the lot. Yep. The house would be sited in the unshaded portions where it says Lot 2 and Lot 3.
Okay.
So it's a pretty significant portion of the property that is being restricted in accordance with the order of conditions.
Is there a house now on lot 2 or 3?
No, the building permit can't be issued until the conservation restriction is approved and recorded. So the property owner, it's Mr. Good, Mr. Tom Good, is in the process of trying to secure the building permit. So this is one of the last stages. The Division of Conservation Services has approved the form, Town Council's approved the form, Conservation Commission's approved the form, and it does require approval by the Board of Selectmen and signature by the board.
I would assume, and I shouldn't probably assume, but that the house would be elevated as opposed to, like across the street, there's an affordable housing duplex that is really elevated with garages on the first level.
Yes.
And I would expect that probably any type of plan that was put forward would also require the same elevations.
The property is in a flood zone,
It's in a flood zone.
I'm familiar with the property across the street, and I expect it would be a similar elevation. So yes, I would expect that it would require elevation.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I move approval of the conservation restriction on 53 Hunt Street.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, the ayes have it. Thank you. All right. Next item is a report from the DPW Director on the water and the wastewater projects going forward. Mr. Jack, see you out in the hall?
Bringing him in from the hallway.
You clear the way, please.
It is.
Thank you and good evening. Quite frankly, I wasn't expecting such a crowd, but nonetheless, this is the monthly report on the water and wastewater projects we have. So we'll start out with the Long Pond Filtration Project.
Ray, I don't think they're here for you, but that's okay.
Oh, okay. In that case, I won't ask if there's any questions. The water plant's approximately $41 million, and thus far, we paid out $7,316,000. That puts us at about 18% complete on the financial side, 21% complete on the time side. We're looking for the plant to go online in the spring of 2017. We haven't approved any actual change orders yet, but we are working on several of them. And in the aggregate, some are credits, some are debits, but what we're probably going to be looking at in the very near future is about a $904,000 credit on the project, so that's good.
That's a net credit?
Yes, yes, after all credits and debits added together, we're going to wind up with something about that.
Right.
So here with the blue line,
So far.
right, yes, the project's still young, which is actually good. The yellow line was the cash flow as it was projected by the contractor, and the blue line on the left, which is up around number 6 on the months, is what we've actually paid out so far. As we move through the project, if the change orders occur, either plus or minus, then the total value number will change, and these lines should match accordingly. On the site work, and please understand too that on both of these reports, these are September reports, but on both reports I'll actually be bringing you pictures and information that are up to date as of this week. So they had 6 structural concrete pours, 627 cubic yards, was over 1,000 cubic yards on the last period that we had. They're really focusing on the filter and gallery floor slabs, which I'll show you in a moment. Pump chamber elevated slab, which is the one that goes on top of the pump chambers, and the north exterior wall. What you see in the upper right picture there was from last month, that near the end of last month, and it's showing you what the portion of the wall was going up vertically on the north side of the building, and then in front of that is rebar construction for the filter slabs. On the right at the bottom, it's showing you where they're putting in place the prefabricated rebar for the exterior walls. They've installed waterproofing. The waterproofing is a bentonite clay compound that goes, it looks like a fabric that gets laid down between 2 geotextile fabrics, and that gets laid on the exterior foundations. For this month, they're going to be continuing the foundation slabs. They'll continue forming all the structural walls and elevated slabs, installing the transformer, and I know Selectman Patterson had asked about that the last time, but the transformer is scheduled to go in this month. That's what they say, but I think that'll probably actually occur sometime in November. Site work for the pump station and intake pipe installation. So the upper picture there in the this picture up here, this is actually taken down where a buried tank is going to be. This area in the bottom where you see the gravel, those are actually going to be tanks that will come up vertically, but the whole thing will ultimately be below ground. One will be an 800,000 gallon clear well tank, and on the left side over here will be 2 tanks for the backwash of the filters. So this is taking the ground level, looking northwest into the pump chamber area of where the building is. These pipes here are actually 24-inch pipes. They're starting to arrive on site. These are the intake pipes that will go out into the pond. They're high-density polyethylene plastic, so they will not corrode. I'm going to be explaining the process for both installing that pipe as well as installing a pipe on Mara Vista for the sewer system a little bit later on in the presentation as to how that actually occurs. So this is where we were back in June, and the project actually started in May, at the beginning of May. So here we started out with a big hole in the ground. The picture up on the left was last month as far as the progress goes. That was that piece of exterior wall facing the north side of the site that you saw last month. This area over here where the concrete is, where the pump chamber areas, that area right over there where you see the rebar, that was the filter slab areas. This area up here is going to be the DAF, or dissolved air flotation area. This is where we are now, so this is the progress over a month. This is the north wall that's in, and this is one of the southern southwest walls that are going in now. Here you can see the waterproofing that's being put on the outside there. So they made a significant amount of progress in a month. This here is showing you near the end of last month. This is from the other side of the site, showing you that little piece of the north wall. And it's clear to be able to see where the filter slabs are going to be here. This is where we are today. This little piece over here on the right-hand side is this edge right there of that little piece of wall that they had. So you can see that across here and down here is where the exterior walls have gone up. And then these walls are going up, which will form part of the filter area and the chamber area that goes next to the filters. And I'll explain all that on the plant profile. This is also taken from the eastern portion of the site, facing west toward the pond. This area over here where you see some piles of things laying on what appears to be a concrete slab, that is going to be the 800,000 gallon wet well for the plant. This is the pump chamber area, and then over here where all of this material is piled, this is going to be an underground, 2 underground tanks for the backwash. And that's just another picture taken from further back to show you the site. So now here we're looking at the exterior walls up here, And this area right in here is the work that is currently going on. So this is going to be where the dissolved air flotation units are. I'll explain a little bit about them in a moment. Ahead of them, and it's hard to see here because you can see that this is on an elevated area, and then it appears to be stepping down over here. So this area right behind them is where the filter slabs are. That area back here is where the pump chambers are. So from a process perspective, water will actually be coming into the plant this way, and DAF, or dissolved air flotation, is one of the first processes that it's going to have, and then it's going to be treated with ozone, and that ozone building is going to be over here when it's all done. Then it goes back into the filter area, and then ultimately out to the clear well, and then it'll be pumped back out into the system. This is the same picture. It's a little bit further advanced. They have a lot more of the rebar in, but this is trying to show you where some of these units are actually going to go. And the hardest thing, of course, to see is that back here is where the filter slab area was. And you can see what's being formed here. There's one compartment here, one here, and one here. So those are the three dissolved air flotation units. This is just the base slab. Vertical walls are going up. So that each one of those is going to be a tank unto itself. And then the same thing's going to happen with the filter slab area. That's going to go vertical and form tanks. That was another picture of the intake pipe. This is also the intake pipe, is more of a derived. Just for perspective, you can see up here, that piece up there has a white coffee cup in it, and I put the coffee cup right in here because you can see those are 24-inch diameter pipes. There will be 2 intakes going into the pond at different elevations, which gives us much better control over the overall raw water quality depending on the time of the year and or what the quality is at differing depths in the pond. Not only that, it provides redundancy. In the event that we did have a problem with one intake, we have another intake. This is 36-inch pipe that's going into some of the plant components. And for perspective, I know these fittings look small over here, but if you can imagine this screening material, silt fence that you see in the back is generally 4 feet high. This fitting here is a 36-inch diameter fitting. This is a 36-inch diameter pipe, and you can see a pen right up on top to give you an idea of the size, and that is ductile iron pipe. This was a panoramic view that Mr. Rafferty spent a lot of time piecing together, as you can see. So I know that it's somewhat confusing here by cramming it all into one, but it deserved to go into the presentation. So this is actually looking from the south to the north. This is the wall that we were talking about before. This is the area up here where the dissolved air flotation will be going in, and this is the area down here for the slab, filter slab. This valley, if you will, is going to be an open area. That'll be a piping gallery that would supply the filters for their supply water and backwash water, and then this is the pump chamber area over here. So now we're looking at the pond. This is actually a valley that was cut as part of the site prep work that was being done. So what will happen here, they will take those 24-inch pieces of HDPE pipe, they will fuse them together with the heat, and then they will float them out into the pond and sink them. They will have a drilling machine up here for directional drilling that will auger a drill under this area. It'll go out into the pond, and then it'll pull those pipes back through after it's all done. And the same type of process is also going to be used on the lower portion of Mara Vista from Iroquois Avenue south, and I'll be going into that. But this was all part of the prep work for that. And then in this vicinity here is where the pump station will actually go. So it'll be an independent building that'll have 3 pumps. It'll draw water out of the pond, push it up into the plant. Plant treats it, stores 800,000 gallons of it, then it gets pumped from there through a 24-inch pipe down Gifford Street and out into the system. So this is a plan view of what the plant would look like. And over here is where the intake basically would be. These are the dissolved air flotation units. Right behind them over here is going to be a coagulation / flocculation basin. So as the water comes in, it's treated with polyaluminum chloride, and that's a coagulant chemical, and what it essentially does is make the suspended particles that are in the water agglomerate together. Now, in the conventional coagulation flocculation process, they'll want to settle out. So they start looking like little tufts of cotton. They get heavier and heavier and want to fall out. That's what you would do with a river system. In a pond system like we have a lot of algae. Algae has a tendency to want to float, not sink. So what's unique about dissolved air flotation, air bubbled, finally diffused, will be introduced into the basins, and along with the chemical, they will agglomerate, but they'll float up to the surface. We'll be able to scrape them off the surface without physically destroying the cellular structure of the algae, because some of them can release toxins when the structure is crushed. So after it goes through there and the material is skimmed off the top, then it'll go out, it'll be treated through the side of the building. Up in this area is where the ozone unit is going to be. Then it'll come back into here. We have 4 filters here. This is that subsurface gallery I was talking about that'll contain the piping, and then this here is the pump chamber area. And then you can see the underground tanks, which you won't be able to see after the plant is built. So where they are construction-wise on the wall, there's this corner that they started with, and now they're down here, and they turn the corner, and they're right about there. So now it's time to actually start seeing what some of these processes are going to look like. This is a dissolved air flotation unit. So that aluminum tubing that you see on the top, it moves, and it has flights that actually push the layer of accumulated solids down to one end of the tank so that they can be removed. But this is what a dissolved air flotation tank is going to look like when it's done. This is the material that will be coming off, and this is what Falmouth's water is going to look like as far as the raw water supply. As part of this treatment process, this is what we expect to be able to be taking off. Then this is that piping gallery that I said that was going to be between the pump chamber and the filters. So this is starting to show you what some of these pipes, and a lot of these are 16 to 24 inch diameter pipes. But that is the filter wall in the background. Up at the top, you see a very light blue pipe. That's a header pipe coming off of the filters for fresh water after it's been treated. This is a wash water supply, so you see it's coming into the bottom of the filter. Normally when you filter water, you put the water in the top, it percolates down, it comes out clean at the bottom, and then it goes out into a clear well. So here is where you reverse the flow. In order to clean the filter, you want to bring the water into the bottom, bring it up through the filter, cause the filter to rise, and it scrubs itself, and the dirty water comes off at the top. Then here, going in near the top of the tank, is a backwash line. So the water that comes off the filter after it's dirty goes down into the backwash. This is what it would look like for a filter looking down into one. The white spots that you see are fluorescent lights. That's just a reflection. But you can walk all around these tanks, and there's a 36-inch layer of sand and anthracite coal that goes into that, and that provides the filtering medium. This is what a filter looks like when it goes into a backwash mode. So about every 24 hours, this is what would have to happen, and this is what the water is going to look like coming off of the top of a filter. And that's even after it already went through a DAF unit. And then this is when a filter is finishing its backwash cycle, and you can see how clean the water is. And then this is the rendition of what the plant's going to look like. So over here, where you see the green spot, that's where the underground tanks are going to be. So just like here, you won't see them. Pump chamber area, filter area here, and then over here would be the DAF area. Any questions?
Mr. Patterson, go ahead.
Well, a project manager always likes to pick out those things that you want to keep on your radar screen because they're the higher risk areas that might pace the schedule. I assume that we have a reasonable financial contingency here from what you've reported.
Yes.
But what are the risk areas that you're kind of tracking to make sure we don't see the schedule get pushed out?
At this point, I'm very comfortable with the progress, with the contractor, with the subcontractors. We are already several months into it, and this would have been the point where we probably would have seen if there was going to be any major fluctuations whatsoever as far as design goes. But the plant was well designed, so I don't really expect to see that. There are always going to be changes on projects of this type, and try to remember, it's not just a building. It's easy to build a box. All right, this is a box that's going to have some very sophisticated equipment in that box. The box is cheap compared to the equipment that's going into the box. All right, so From a process perspective, all the little details are already working out, and I really don't expect any significant changes going forward on that.
Just on another water issue, could you just review what the timetable is on the flushing, just because I know that is going on? I'm not sure if Mr. Rafferty is here, but is that something you're able to remind us about, the hydrant flushing?
Yes, that's known as directional flushing. So for November, what they're going to be doing is running down Woods Hole Road for all intents and purposes. That takes the water from Long Pond specifically, and they will be opening multiple hydrants at a time and closing valves as they go. That's why it's called directional. You control the direction of the flow of water by closing and opening certain valves, and they'll move all the way down into Woods Hole and do the Woods Hole area. But that's very time and labor intensive to be able to do it from a directional flushing perspective, because it takes time to swing the valves and do the flushing. So it's actually going to take place in the spring, in the winter, and in the fall over the next 2 to 3 years in order to completely get around the system. We have 400 miles of pipe out there. That'll take you from here to the state of Delaware. So it's a lot of effort.
So the Woods Hole area right now, the Woods Hole Road area right now is the ones we're going to see some brown water for a short period of time in one day.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Oh, there, you've got the...
I can't find the...
Yeah, it's there.
Oh, there it is.
Restart.
No, I asked Mike to have Mike from IT down here, and he reset the timers on it. I'll do that one too. Okay.
Same one. Just later in the...
I'll have to go all the way through, yeah. I don't know why it does that. IT looked at the machine today and said that it may have been the timer that goes out on it, but theoretically it was supposed to be okay for tonight. I ran it through 3 times myself, it was fine. Keep going. All my animations. Well, there's no charge for the second show anyway. Okay. Little Pond Sewer Project. Project costs almost $20.5 million. We paid out $3.5 million already. It's about 17% complete on the dollar side and about 17% complete on the time side. This is a 26-month project, and we are going into the 5th month of it. We haven't actually approved any change orders, but down here on the bottom, you can see it's $17,000. There are 5 change orders that are being considered now. They're going to be consolidated into one change order with a net overall value of an increase of $17,000. There'll be another larger change order that we'll be looking at within a month or so to adjust it for Spring Bars Road. But this is only potential at this point, so no contract values have changed, but I presume by the next meeting that we have, we'll have change order 1 in place, which will be about in this amount. So this is their cash flow. You can see the cash flow on their projected cash flow here. And what's a little bit different about a project like this versus a building, on a building there is one general contractor, a number of subcontractors, but it's all on one site. It's usually easier to be able to project what your values are going to be over the life of the project. In a case like this, this is when Robert B. Auer first walks in the door. The first thing they have to do is give us a cash flow and a projected schedule. So they're not intimately familiar with the town. They have to be able to go through and give us that projected number, so it's a guessing game for a 2-year period. So what this number actually represents here, even though it's a little bit higher, it means they're a little bit ahead on where they'd expected to be at this point in the game, and that's a good thing for us. But as you can see from a numbers game perspective, the numbers really aren't changing yet. So for the site work, The mainline sewers during the month of September and going up into now. They did Worcester Court, Raymond, Lake Lehman, Elysian, Grand, Dartmouth Court, Jericho Path. They've been spending a lot of time. They have a couple crews that are doing the services or laterals, if you will, on Alma, Russell, Young, Holland, and Johnson. The trunk sewer, which is the mainline sewer that's going to collect most of Mara Vista, hence it's called a trunk sewer, is on Spring Bars Road. They've already started that project this month. That is also where the lift station is going to be for the mall. There's also the trunk sewer will go from the mall heading east toward Mara Vista, but then from the mall going west would be the force main coming out of the lift station, which would connect into the existing system and take it over to the Academy Lane station. So they also began the site work for the mall lift station, which they'll be doing this month as well. Oh, I do want to go back on one. Yeah. On these pictures here, the one up at the top is an example of what a low-pressure service lateral looks like. So it's a very small diameter pipe that's 1.25 inch, high-density polyethylene pipe. Then it has a curb stop there, similar to a water stop where you can turn it on and off. And this box here is just an access box to get it up to the surface so that you can put a key on it and access that curb stop there. This is showing, and it's not a very good picture, but right here, you can see that this is 4-inch pipe going into the trench here for the low pressure main. That pipe is being fused together, so it's not one big roll, but it gets fused together at the joint with a special machine, and I'll be showing you that a little bit later. And this is just showing you the main trench that's getting ready to be paved. So this month they've been continuing their main installations, both the gravity mains as well as the low pressure mains, and I'll be able to be a bit more clear when I show you the map here. Miami and Lucerne are right now the only two roads that really have a predominance of low pressure main going in. They're working on Lucerne right now. They'll also continue that main on Spring Bars Road, the lift station, and directional drilling. As I said, I'm going to show you some of the equipment and explain the process for what directional drilling is with regard to this project here, as well as what would happen out at Long Pond. A couple more pictures. This is a 2-inch on the left-hand side. That's a 2-inch low-pressure pipe. And this right here, since that's a very small line, this is a fusion machine that is connecting two pieces of that pipe. On the left right there, that protrusion that you see, that is for a service lateral to go to a house. On the right-hand side, this is a gravity service lateral. So this is a trench box that it's within right now, but that's the gravity lateral coming off of the main, rising vertically up to the surface in front of the house, and that's what the homeowner would connect into. So this is Worcester Court. This is paving going on after they had opened up the trench and put the main in. This is also Worcester Court. It's just a closer shot at the intersection heading down toward the beach. And this is Worcester Court on showing a manhole. This is the trench after they had installed the gravity main. This here is a manhole that had to be installed along that main, and this is the cover that's going to be going on top of the manhole. So this is what I think most people really want to know. This is showing where we've come and where we are right now. So all the lines in yellow are sewer mains that have already been installed. There's no distinction here between the gravity mains and the low pressure mains, but for all intents and purposes, this area up here is all low pressure, and this area down here was all gravity. And the purple is where we were since last month. So the yellow represents mains that were installed since the project started in June, and the purple alone is the progress that they've made just during the last month. This is from September, so the yellow here was showing some of the mains that were in, and all the blue insets that you see, these are service connections that were put off of the main up to the curb line of the house by the contractor. So as you can see, just for the, and this is just the Falmouth Heights area that's being done right here. Up here is the overall Mar Vista Peninsula area. So they're starting here. When they finish, they'll move over into this, and this is up Spring Bars Road right here as the crossover line. They'll move up into here and head down the peninsula, but they're probably about 70% complete in this area here. This next one's going to show you that there's a bit more blue because that was from last month. So this one's showing you that there are more service connections that have been installed. They will be continuing to do that through the end of the year. It's expected that by the end of the year, they're going to be done, pretty much done in this area here, and we'll be able to start activating those mains after they're tested. And this right here is Spring Bars, so that's the crossover area. When I talk about directional drilling is starting right now on Mar Vista, so if you were to go down there tomorrow, you'll see the equipment, and they're basically starting around here, around Iroquois, and all of this blue that you see in this area is low pressure main. All of this up here that's red is gravity main. So the directional drilling is going to be going right down Mar Vista Avenue, the whole length of that run to put in the trunk line for the low pressure area. The huge benefit of directional drilling is the only other option of getting that main in would be to open trench all the way down. It would be very disruptive for what's considered to be a major thoroughfare, even though it is wintertime coming on. So this process isn't necessarily cheaper. It's not as though it's going to save the town money because you're paying for the technology, but it is a lot less disruptive for the area. So this is what directional drilling looks like, and in this particular diagram and the one after it, we're looking at a water body where you can drill a pipe underneath a river. So over here on the left is the staging area that has the launcher and the drill mechanism up here. It takes drill pipe in sections and it keeps adding sections as they go. The pipe diameter is generally about 2 inches, and they drill a hole down here. They can control it with a computer up here as to whether it goes left and right, up and down, so they know where it is all the time. If they encounter an obstruction, they can back it up and try to avoid the obstruction, and then they'll come up at a receiving pit at some point further downstream. Now in this case, for Mar Vista, it'll be about in 2 block increments is what they're going to try. So there'll be a receiving pit on one intersection, and then they'll skip right through the next intersection, go down to the following one, and try to do 2 of them at once. So they'll have 2 receiving pits. After they get the first bore hole in with the small diameter pipe, they attach a reamer, and they start bringing it back. So in the first diagram here, you see them drilling out in one direction, and both of the next diagrams are going backwards. So here is a reamer on the pipe to enlarge the hole for the size of the pipe, and the bottom one here is showing that it's got a reamer here. It's already enlarged the hole for the most part, has a swivel right in the middle. Then they put a head on the pipe and connect the pipe and start pulling the pipe back. So that's the same process they're going to be using for Mar Vista, the same process they're going to use for the 24-inch pipe that's going to be going in the long pond. So it's very efficient, very effective, and a lot less disruptive, either for a neighborhood or environmentally. This is just another example of how that goes. I think it's a better depiction. You can see the launcher up here. So in this particular case, they're already pulling a pipe back through the pit, and down here it's showing you what the swivel is and how the reamer keeps the hole open and it just pulls the pipe back.
It's convenient, we're using the same process in both projects.
Yes.
We can use the same equipment for just at different times.
Yes. And the equipment will be a little bit different. I can't find the mouse again.
There it is. We're on top of the
I just want to, I'm hoping this doesn't drop out. I just wanted to close it out. Where'd it go? You can, and just in case we lose this, all right, because this is actually the end of it. But over here, this is the machine that is the actual drilling machine, and you can see it's a small diameter pipe that they put into a drilling pit right here, and then they seek the depth that they want, level it off, and just keep moving forward. And then the same machine will stay in this place and they'll start pulling the pipe back with a machine like this. This is a fusion machine over here. And that black that you, well, the black that you saw was the pipe. So the pipe gets mounted in the fusion machine on both ends, all right, so that they bring them together. They put a plate, a heated plate, between the two pieces of pipe after they've shaved the edges off to make them perfectly flush. And then they pull the heated plate out, and the machine pushes the two together in order to heat fuse the pipe. So that's how they'll be doing it on both of the projects. And I promise you, I will figure out what's wrong with this for the next presentation, so that we don't have that. Oh. Any questions?
Oh, my goodness.
Sam.
I won't turn this way and ask for any questions, believe me.
Sam.
How deep is the deepest trench that you had to dig or will have to dig?
In Mara Vista?
Well, in the
For the
entire
Little Pond,
project.
for the Little Pond project?
Yeah.
That's going on, actually, that went on last week and the week before, because that's in the area of the Trade Center, and it is behind the mall. 22 feet deep is where that trunk line is. So the area down around Jericho, when we were on Falmouth Heights Road there, that was about 18 feet, and that was a deep hole. But this one's 22 feet, so it's deeper. That's the deepest.
How much of a dewatering problem do you have when you're that deep like that?
Fortunately for us, the contractor's really doing a very, very good job at dewatering. It's extensive. There is a lot of dewatering to occur, but it's working out very well. And normally, I can appreciate that question, because one of the biggest concerns I would have going into a project like this, where you're surrounded by water, is the dewatering. That is where you can have significant problems that have a tendency to drive up the cost. But the plan that was filed for the dewatering has worked out very, very well, so it has not been that problem. Unfortunately, though, 22 feet deep in water like that, it's slow. So right now on Spring Bars Road, they're slow, just like they were slow getting started right off of Falmouth Heights Road. All right, it seemed like they were living there for a while, all right? But as you can see, since then, they've made significant progress. It's a good crew.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Pittering. The microphone's right here, though.
Last month, after this presentation, I spoke to you about the subject of allowing people to use their Title V tanks as pump chambers. I was approached by people on all sides of this. The current plan was for them to have to crush those, and I explained to you that they're basically the same as a pump chamber, and to maintain that would save the person money filling it in, excavation, as well as negate the necessity of having a generator, because they have 1,000 or 1,500 gallon capacity, which would last you perhaps weeks. I was wondering if any progress has been made on that.
Yes, Mr. Jack's actually given us a 3-page response to your question, but we're still waiting from GHD to also confirm that we're getting the same information. And I expect either in this next meeting or in Mr. Jack's next meeting, we could be able to get a presentation on that. But we do have an answer to that question.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Boy, that's a lot of reporting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, is there any chance we put a few more people in here? There's some people here that would like to give a...
There's plenty of standing room, and the lights should come on.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Our next item deals with the Seacoast Shores Association.
They're going to be using this.
I don't think so, no. They do have a summary in the materials of what he recommended, so
You imagine how much is in that man's head?
Take it under advisement or comment on that. Whichever you prefer.
It's comforting and it's all that experience.
Oh, incredible.
Rebecca, we can get a little bit of the lights down now?
Yes?
That's good, thank you.
Dick, from the beginning. Here.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
You got through everything from the microphone so the television audience can also hear you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Selectmen, Town Manager, Assistant Town Manager, everyone else that has joined us this evening. Welcome. My name is Dick Setti. I'm the president of Seacoast Shores Association. This year, the association instituted a management plan for our community beach. And on July 25th, the town issued a cease and desist order with respect to the portion of the beach covered by an easement. We are here tonight to ask the town to withdraw its order. A favorable vote tonight will enable the association to move forward with its beach management plan. All of Seacoast Shores community will benefit greatly by this association member approved plan. We mailed out a ballot to every member of the peninsula and said if you join the association you can cast your ballot. We had an overwhelming yes versus no. The strength is a well-managed approach that will sustain a family-friendly, clean and safe beach environment. And at this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to our board member, Mr. Bill Erickson. Thank you.
What did I do? There we go. All right, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, town manager and assistant town manager, thank you for this opportunity. I'm going to break this down into three basic parts. Some background information on the area to familiarize yourself where we're talking about, the problems and challenges that we face on our community beach together with our solutions, and then our position, our response to the cease and desist letter, and the reasons why we ask the town to please withdraw it and allow us to work with the town, because Seacoast Shores has always worked together with the town of Falmouth in order to make the improvements at our community. This is Seacoast Shores, and this is the beach that we're talking about. As you all know, Seacoast Shores is a very dense, highly populated area. There was a time that there were 2 beaches on Seacoast Shores, if you go back to 1947 and into the early 50s. The second beach was down in this area here. And we lost this beach due to erosion, and that's going to be a common theme in my presentation today. You can see that the subject beach is very close to Washburn Island. The navigable waters are very narrow here, and it's at the confluence of 3 separate rivers. You probably know that the old Edwards Boatyard, now Bosun's Marine, is up here. This is a very heavily traveled waterway. It's a challenge to manage a beach in this area. This is a close-up of the area, and we call the area in question here that we're here to talk about tonight the disputed area, simply because we do have this disagreement. This is Bayside Drive. The road comes down here, the paved road comes down and ends approximately right here, right in front of these boulders. And I'm going to show you close-ups of these boulders a little bit later on. The town took an easement back in 1975 over this property in order to build, harden, lengthen, strengthen a road. Seacoast Shores owns the beach to the south of this area, and that property comes approximately to here and down and outside the viewing area. The abutter to the north are the Fays, and the Fay family is here with us tonight and support this proposal. Our position is that the association and the Fays, as abutters to an easement road, own the land that the easement runs over, and I think that's generally accepted law, and in fact we received an email from town council essentially stating that the town of Falmouth doesn't own the road, they only took an easement. The abutters would own the fee in the land. The beach itself has abutters living right behind it, all the way down. There are, and you can't see all of them, but there are homes directly behind the beaches, which is important because obviously beach activity can be a disturbance to the abutters that live nearby. This beach basically services 900 homes on Seacoast Shores. This is a view of Bayside Drive standing west of the beach and looking towards the east. And you can see these boulders that were placed essentially on the paved section near the end of Bayside Drive. There's a second row of boulders at the end of the pavement right here. So you can see that this section of Bayside Drive was blocked off from vehicle traffic, and no pavement was installed after this second set of boulders heading down into the water. And that's important. We'll be talking about that later. I just want to go back to this for 1 second. I don't mean to backtrack, but I meant to point out the fence on the Fay's property ends here, and then you can see where the land extended out to when this aerial photo was taken. That's just an important reference that I'm going to bring up later on, so I just wanted to go back and point it out here. Here's that fence again. You can see it close up. It's kind of a woven fence. The signage that you see here has been on this right-of-way, has been on this beach access for as long as I can remember. We go back about 12 to 15 years in our memory. Sometimes the sign was down here, now it's up here, but the sign contained the rules of conduct that Seacoast Shores posted on this beach, and they've been the same basic rules since I can remember. So why do the 900 homeowners care about the beach? This is the residents' easy access deeded recreation area. And when I say deeded, Seacoast Shores owns the deed to the beach. But every resident of Seacoast Shores, if they do a title search back in their chain to the original grant from the original developer, has a deeded right to use this beach. So the entire community has an interest in this. And even though there may not be agreement between all community members, I believe all community members have this beach's best interest at heart. It's part of our quality of life. We are a waterfront community. We not only have the beach, but we also have rights of way. These are smaller waterfront properties where we do boating and fishing activities. It enhances, obviously, the property value. I've never seen an advertisement for a house for sale on Seacoast Shores that didn't use the beach as part of the promotion to sell the house. And the same is true for renters. People who rent their property always highlight the local community beach as a reason to come and rent their property. Another reason why a lot of us care about it is that we know that we can lose this beach due to erosion. So we're going to talk now about the beach problems that the association features, and erosion is the first one. But these three problems are all interrelated. Erosion raises financial problems because it's a very expensive problem to address, as is all of the other responsibilities that come with a beach. And the density and the use of the beach tend to cause problems for the financial aspect of this. It can be difficult to raise money to address the problems if the beach isn't seen as something that people want to go and use. This is a picture of our beach back in 2003 before we conducted the second renourishment in the history of Seacoast Shores. Now you remember I told you to look at that fence? In 2003, the high water mark was up to this second piling. The land that you saw in that aerial picture, way out here, is gone. By 2003, that land was eroded. It no longer existed. This grassy area you see here, you're going to see in a moment looking from the north to the south. Here's that grassy area, and as you can see, this is all that's left of the beach at high tide in 2003. You can see this retaining wall has the high water right up against it. The beach was gone. This is the beach from the south now, looking up to the north. This is basically the end of an access path that leads up to Edgewater Drive West. You come down the path, you come to the beach, and there is no beach. This was a jetty. This is part of a jetty wall that separates our beach from the abutter's property to the south. So you can see that at high tide you had nothing left, and this is that grassy area that we were looking at a moment ago when we were at the north view looking to the south, and that's all that was left in 2003. So the solution to our erosion problem was town-approved renourishment paid for by Seacoast Shores. And Seacoast Shores paid every penny of the licensing, the permitting, the engineering, the construction work to do the renourishment. It was done in 79 and 80. It was done again, as you can see, more than 20 years later in 2004. So you can see what happened 20 years between renourishment. It was gone. And then we just recently paid to do it again in 2013 and 2014. And let's take a look at the difference. Again, here's that second piling I showed you in the earlier picture. The water line was up to here, and now you can see where the beach runs to. Here's that grassy area I showed you to the right. So you can see that all of this land was taken back, was re-added at the expense of the Seacoast Shores Association. This is a view of the beach, again, looking to the south. And the good news is you can see grass life growing in the area that we've renourished. And you can see that there's plenty of land now, plenty of beach area between the high water and the seawall. So the erosion was solved by renourishment. But the problem that we had with dealing with erosion was financial. The financial problems with respect to the beach are significant, and we've listed some of them here. 3 renourishments have been done over the years at an accumulated cost of approximately $80,000, and we're estimating that because we couldn't find financial records for the 79 and 80 renourishment. But I think, as this board well knows, the cost of renourishment only goes up year after year. It never goes down. The managing and monitoring that we instituted this year cost approximately $20,000, and I'll be talking about that in a moment. Water quality testing, trash pickup and removal, signage, swim buoys, grass cutting, liability insurance. These are yearly or every 3 to 5 years additional expenses that have to be incurred to maintain this beach, and all these expenses are incurred and paid by Seacoast Shores Association. So this is the problem. The town of Falmouth doesn't pay for the renourishment or any of these other expenses. Seacoast Shores does. And going back until just very recently, Seacoast Shores didn't have the financial resources to pay for all of this work out of its budget. It's always been an approximately 300-member association on a peninsula that has about 900-plus homes. And we had insufficient dues and resources to restore these assets or to fund the management programs that we needed to improve them. The old method was essentially a patchwork of contributions and dues. We would ask our members to pay extra money so that we could re-nourish the beach. And at one point, the chairman of the beach committee actually went door to door and asked for people to pay some extra money so we could do this work. This was an unsustainable method, and it's frankly irresponsible. So our solution, which started really back in 2005 for all of our assets, was to add value to what we own in order to attract committed, lifelong members. Show the residents that we're going to put serious money into all of the properties of Seacoast Shores, including the beach. With the money, we were going to restore assets, add improvements to them, put the monitoring and management in place. And the idea was to fund this with a balanced budget. But to balance the budget, to do all of this work, we needed two things. We needed more members, and we needed to increase the dues. Pardon me. The support from our members was staggering. What we thought was going to be a terrible challenge has actually paid off. You can see the regular dues are $300 per member, and that's per member family. It's based on your property, so each property owner would pay $300 for annual dues. And you can see how the dues have increased. We've got the first line is back in 1978, when I think the dues were something like $15 a year, up to 2015, where we now have raised approximately $120,000 a year. And of course, that's to manage all of our assets, not just the beach. And you can see that while we've raised more money, we've also increased membership. What was historically a 300-member community association is now up to almost 400 members. And that surge has happened over the last 2 years when we announced this plan and put it into action. So the erosion problem was solved, our financial problem was solved, but we had to do something about the problems that arise from density in order to solve the financial problem, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. Again, high density, 5% of the population is on 1% of the land in Falmouth at Seacoast Shores. It is a very highly developed area with very small lots. So when you talk about beach usage, there are 900 homes, approximately 1,800 residents, and they all have probably 10 guests that come during the summer, so you have 9,000 guests, and they're all using about 10,000 square feet of beach. Now, we did some calculations using a beach management guide, and we calculate that with expected usage of 2 to 3 times a year, we're going to have 2 times the recommended number of people on our beach at any given time. Now, I think this board also knows that heavy beach usage only contributes to beach erosion. The activities of playing at a beach, running up and down a beach, kids throwing sand into the water, just accelerates the erosion problems. So this is an issue that we know that we have to manage, and we have to re-nourish more frequently. Also, there's no off-street parking at this beach. People are expected to walk there, but people nevertheless drive and park even in no parking areas, and that causes more problems with the density issues. So on top of that, we have non-residents coming down to use the beach. And they don't just come from other parts of Falmouth. They're coming from off Cape to use this beach. It's free to use. People park in the street, and they just come and use it. Renters who are there for the week are there using it, and they don't know anything about being a member. And in many cases, we found the people that owned the homes that were renting them were not members of the association, even though they were essentially using our beach for the lucrative purpose of weekly rentals to vacationers. The beach safety rules were continuously violated. Now, these rules are not outrageous. These are pretty simple rules. No drinking, drugs, or smoking. Don't launch boats from the beach. It's just simply unsafe for people to be bringing canoes, kayaks, and dinghies down to the beach and launch them, and we don't want boats landing on the beach. But because that waterway is so narrow and because the beach looks so inviting, people do that, and they use the beach for those purposes. Fishing on the beach just doesn't work. There's too many people and children there for people to be casting hook and line from the beach. And of course we tell people, please don't trespass on the abutter's land. It's surrounded by homes. And yet we get complaints all the time from people who are on the beach trespassing on their property. Please don't use the beach after hours, yet people go down there to party and unfortunately engage in some other inappropriate behavior after hours on the beach. So how did we try to enforce these rules until this year? Well, it was member enforcement. It was a policy we called, if you see something, say something. And it worked about as well as you might expect, because people really don't go to the beach for the day to pick an argument with somebody that's breaking the rules. If somebody's drinking or smoking, if they're swearing, if somebody comes down with a boat or a fishing rod, a mom and a dad with their kids really aren't interested in trying to be the rules police. It just didn't work. So our solution to the density problem was professional managing and monitoring. We retained Amity Security, licensed, insured, trained. The owner of Amity Security is a retired police officer, trained with rule enforcement and dealing with the public. And the company is owned by a Seacoast Shores resident. He's familiar with the neighborhood and the beach and the people. And he was the fellow that was manning the beach a significant percentage of the time. And he was enforcing the rules. And this is where there were complaints. He was limiting access to Seacoast Shores residents and their guests. And there was a requirement to show an ID. We had a computer, I shouldn't call him a technician, a computer expert, develop a database of all of the residents, all the homes of Seacoast Shores, so that he could check ID against our database. And we were updating it as homes were sold and as people moved in and out. And if somebody was a long-term tenant and is not the owner of record, we would make that change. We would make that accommodation. And we allowed people to bring their children, their grandchildren. And if you came with a big group of guests, our only requirement is, if you're not a member, you just have to accompany your guests to the beach so that we see the tie-in and know what's going on. This was about the first time we ever received positive comments from our members at our annual meeting about the behavior and the conditions at the beach. Cleanliness, behavior had all improved greatly. So we thought we had solved all of our problems. But on July 25, the town sent a letter to Seacoast Shores, and they told us the easement portion of the beach is, and we quote from the letter, a public way that happens to be used as a beach. And that Seacoast Shores must cease forthwith its activities, its management activities in this disputed area. And that the Falmouth police were instructed to enforce the town's order. The problem with this is we really can't maintain and manage 80% of the beach. We need that section when we do our renourishment. We need that section when we do any work on the beach and when we post signage. And if that section is just open to the public, we're right back where we started from. Anybody can come down and use that and then just walk into the water with their boats and their kayaks and can fish right next 2 feet away from the people that are on the association beach. The whole thing is only 300 feet long. So our response to the cease and desist letter is really, I think, our attempt to have a cooperative offer and relationship with the town on this. We don't see our management of the beach as being inconsistent with the town's easement. And we ask that the cease and desist order be withdrawn. And we've got 3 reasons for this, and I'm an attorney, so you'll forgive me if I have some legal cases here, but we're not here to threaten legal action or dispute. We're here to try to resolve this and work together cooperatively. But I think the legal cases are instructive. So reason number 1. The 1975 easement was only for a road, and that road ends short of the beach. Now we all agree, the town agrees with Seacoast Shores, that it's only an easement that the town has and that the abutters own the property that the beach is on. That's a standard legal principle. I won't drag that out, but we got a letter from town council's office that essentially said that to us, an email, pardon me. In 1975, the town voted under the Betterment Act, and it's important that we know that this was under the Betterment Act, Chapter 82, to take the road to widen, harden, and straighten it. There was no intent in the easement to create a town beach or a beach of any kind. And we've attached the easement to our written materials that we've already provided to you. The road never extended to the beach, and there was never any stated intent to create a road over the beach. We looked at the easement language, the drawings, the assessment, and then the usage ever since 1975, including the placement of boulders to block vehicle traffic. I'm going to go through them very quickly. Here's the easement. Under the provisions of Chapter 82, the selectmen, together with the power conferred on the selectmen by a town vote, hereby took a public easement. So again, the town didn't take a fee interest in the land, it's only an easement, and it's under Chapter 82. Here's the drawing that accompanied that easement, and the easement references this drawing and makes it a part of the easement. Now, you can see that the roadway came down and stopped at a line parallel to the property line for our beach. Now, back in those days, the beach was owned by McCartan Leisure Industries, and he was the developer that sold most of the lots. He sold this beach to us the next year in 1976. Over here to the north, this is the property now owned by the Fays, and this is the abutter directly behind the beach. But you can see there was no intent to harden the road beyond this point. This is Eel Pond. Pardon me. This is the assessment. In case there's any doubt of whether or not the road should have gone further and there should have been an assessment charged against the abutters, McCartan Leisure Industries wasn't listed anywhere on the people that were charged and assessed for the road improvement. So clearly, the intent was clear. There was no intent to build a road into the water. Over the 40 years since it's been used, there's been no change to that intent. No additional road was ever built. No bridge was ever built over to Washburn Island. Maybe that was a dream once upon a time. And those boulders were placed across the roadway to prevent, not enhance, but to prevent vehicle traffic down to the waterway. So where does that bring us? Well, there's actually direct legal precedent on this. A town can't use a Chapter 82 street improvement easement in order to keep land open for access to the water. You can use that easement to build a road, but you can't use that easement simply to keep the land open to the public. This was decided in 2002 by the Supreme Judicial Court in the case of Chandler versus County of Commissioners of Nantucket. So, our position is what we're using this area for is not inconsistent with what the town took. The town took it for a street, but ended the street short of the water, didn't take the street, the beach section for a road, and we are the abutters and we still own that property, and we're just managing the beach use of it. We're not doing anything that interferes with any actual demonstrated intent of a road use. Item number 2 is renourishment. Our renourishment added land beyond the point of the easement. The town approved that renourishment. This wasn't something we went out and did in the middle of the night. We went through all the proper licensing. The renourishments that we did extended the beach beyond the area described in the 1975 taking by about 10 feet, not much. But what's really critical is that the renourishment extended the beach much further than the 2003 water line when it was all eroded. Again, this is where the water line was in 2003 before that renourishment. Here's where it is today. All of this additional land added. So the impact of that is basically summarized in the Berg v. Hines decision. An easement holder doesn't continue its easement over land that was lost to erosion. Once that land is gone, the easement is gone. Furthermore, the easement holder doesn't gain an easement over land that's artificially added to the water line. If the ocean were to simply grant you land through the process of accretion, which sometimes the ocean does, sometimes the ocean builds up land, the abutter gets that land, and the easement holder continues their easement. But the Berg v. Hines case stands for the proposition that artificially added land does not extend the easement. So again, our use of this is not inconsistent with the easement that the town has over this property. And finally, just principles of fairness dictate that our management program should be allowed. We own the property in question, subject to your easement. We've paid for the renourishment and managed the property at the association's expense for years. The town of Falmouth isn't using the area as a road and never had any intent to do so. So our reasonable management program should be allowed. So we ask that you please withdraw the cease and desist letter and work with us and recognize our authority to enforce what are really pretty reasonable rules for beach use and access, and recognize our right to seek the town's assistance as necessary to address violations, as any landowner could call town services to deal with any issues of trespass or violations. All of the details of our rules are in the proposal that we've provided you. If there's any, to the extent you want to see the specific details, you have them all in writing. A yes vote on our proposal enables us and our 400-member families to continue to successfully improve our community. And I'm a little too quick with the buttons here. I would appreciate the opportunity to answer any questions.
Does anyone from the board have questions for the Seacoast Shores Association? I'm then going to see if there's anyone else from Seacoast Shores who wants to add positively to it, but I'm also going to get people who want to speak in opposition to this also.
Sure.
I just had an informational question. Is this not the location where the bridge existed when the Army had a base on it?
Yep, that's exactly the location. We've got some old pictures from those days that shows that bridge. There was a bridge there once.
That's what I thought. Any other questions for the proposal? Do we have anyone who'd like to speak on additional comments in favor of this request that are different than what we've heard? Please do not repeat what we've already heard. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to the request? Okay, again, you'll have to introduce yourself. Ma'am? Introduce yourself.
My name is Marjorie.
Right to the microphone so that they can hear you at home.
Right, okay. My name is Marjorie Benoit. I've lived on Seacoast Shores for 52 years. I raised... I'm sorry.
You have to
The
speak
microphone,
louder.
just
Your
microphones.
voice needs to be louder. The mic is only for the TV.
Okay. I've lived on Seacoast Shores for 52 years and raised my children there. And most of our summers were spent on Bayside Beach. It's changed through storms, and but it's been replenished. But it was replenished by the people who donated the money to replenish the beach. We kept a separate fund that was for replenishment, so every time it needed doing, the money was there. The same with the access to the beach. That was everybody who lived on Seacoast. It's not been that way this summer. It's been a terrible way to spend a summer. There has been a man who was a guard who sat at the end of the beach, and if you were a member of the association, you could go to the beach, and if you were not, you were turned away, no matter whether you lived on Seacoast Shores or not. That is true.
Quiet, please.
That is true. And then when you're in
I
July...
will not hear from anyone else except for the person at the podium. Otherwise, I will clear the room.
In July, when we were told that we could use the front of the beach because it belonged to the town, then all of the other people could go to the beach. I live on Edgewater Drive East, before the beach. I've watched families with buggies and children walk by to the beach and be turned away and come back home. It's never been like that in all the years. In all the years I've lived there. I belonged to the association until it became $300 a year. And then I said, I'm sorry, I can't afford that. I'm now retired. I'm on a very limited income, so I no longer am a member. But we all have picked up at Seacoast. We've taken care of Seacoast. We paid for the police patrol. And the money that we all donated for the police patrol this year paid the salary of the guard on the beach, which we didn't know was going to happen, but did happen. It's been a very unpleasant summer for many of us. Many of us simply wouldn't go to the beach anymore because there he sat in his tent and he glared at you. And if you were a member, you went on this side, and if you weren't, you went on that side. He was most unpleasant. It felt like being in a police state. That's what it felt like. So whether you give it to the association or not, that's up to you to decide. But we should be able to use the whole of that beach. It says so in our deeds. It says in my deed that all of the public lands I can use. It's part of my right as a resident of Seacoast Shores, and everybody else also. But the association is not allowing that to happen. So it's become, from being a community where we all work together, it's become a community where we're all dissidents again. We through the years, we worked so hard to make it we finally got it to be the least crime in the whole of the town of Falmouth, because we all worked together. In the winter, when all of the other people leave, we would be walking our dogs and checking, calling. We saw anything that was odd and different. If you were a drug house looker, you didn't go and buy or move to Seacoast Shores because you were harassed the whole time. Always somebody would be calling the police. We had the lowest crime rate in town. It's not the same anymore. That's not how it is anymore. Because that caring that we all had is turned to anger against the association. And it breaks my heart to see these families who live at the top of Seacoast, who simply don't have the money that the clubhouse and all of this stuff have, not be able to go to the beach. And they haven't been able to go this summer. Whatever they tell you, I walk my dog there every day and watched. They were not allowed to go. Okay, that's all I have to say.
There's someone else here? Someone else had their hand up? No? Okay. I'm going to let you're on the proposal side, right? Okay, I've asked if they had anyone else who wanted to speak.
Oh, that's fair.
Okay. Sir?
He can go ahead of me if he likes.
Are you speaking in opposition?
I'm speaking in opposition.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Ed Moritz. I'm a resident of Seacoast Shores. I live at 23 Atwater Drive. I'm here with a group of people. I'm going to read this statement. It'll be easier for me to follow through. My name is Ed Moritz. I reside at 23 Atwater Drive in Seacoast Shores. I have been a resident with my family for 26 years. I am here tonight with a group of my neighbors. In the past 2 months, we have formed a group of 44 concerned families, 41 of which are dues-paying members of the association. We have attached our names to a letter which I delivered to your office last Friday. The letter is titled Friends of Seacoast Shores and states our dissatisfaction with the Board of Directors of the association and enumerates specific issues with their lack of leadership. We strongly oppose any consideration the town may give to the association relative to the control of the public way of Bayside Drive. I have a letter here that the town gave them. It's contrary to the description of the easement. Maybe we are in error, but I will read this anyway because this is the town's stance. Dear Mr. Setti, the office has previously informed you in the Seacoast Shores Association Incorporated that Bayside Drive is a public way. The public way taking occurred in 1975, and the plan is recorded in the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds and Plan Book 293, page 77. Both the order of taking and the plan now showing Bayside Drive ending at the waters of Eel Pond. The fact that the pavement ends before the water's edge is of no legal significance, and the public has a right of access to Eel Pond for all lawful purposes. The fact that the association may have maintained the sandy portion of the layout as part of the association's adjacent beach is of no legal significance. The maintenance appears to be voluntary, is not authorized by easement or license from the town. There are reports that the association has engaged a security guard who was posted at the end of the pavement on Bayside Drive, who denies access beyond that point to members of the public who are not association members. This practice is unauthorized and must cease forthwith. The SSAI may limit the access to the association's beach parcel, but not to the public way. I have instructed the Falmouth Police Department to enforce the directives of this letter and to report violations to this office and the Board of Selectmen. I'm going to refer to the letter I submitted to the board earlier, last Friday. I said that I would read part of the issues that we have. October 18th, 2015, Board of Selectmen, Town Hall, regarding Bayside Beach, Seacoast Shores Association Incorporated. Dear members of the board, the undersigned residents and property owners of Seacoast Shores would like to inform the Board of Selectmen we do not approve of the actions taken in 2015 by Richard Setti and the Board of Directors of Seacoast Shores Association Incorporated relative to Bayside Beach. There is much discontent among the Seacoast population, both members and non-members of SSAI. Since the formation of the Clubhouse Committee in 2006, the Association and Board of Directors has embarked on a 10-year course of action that has resulted in a very large disconnect between the Board of Directors and the large majority of property owners and residents which the BOD is intended to serve. We object to the beach monitoring program, under which a contractor was hired at approximate cost of $25,000 to place full-time monitoring personnel on the beach to monitor and track who was using the beach. We believe the beach monitoring program was an unnecessary and unreasonable infringement on our deeded rights to use the beach, and it was a waste of limited I financial resources. It has never been voted upon by the people of Seacoast Shores. There are 925 lots. There was 1,017. There are approximately 875 property owners. There is a legal description in our deeds. The grantee shall have the right to use and enjoy in common with other owners of the property on the premises known as Seacoast Shores any and all beaches and recreation areas established by the grantor on said Seacoast Shores. Our disagreement is not the fact that the beach needs to be replenished, but the fact that the association claims all responsibility for doing it, when the Board of Directors that went around door to door and collected money, he resigned this year because he disagreed with the actions that have been going on for 10 years. We have rights to the recreation area where the clubhouse was built, but only the people that were members of the association, and at that time 275 people, voted for 925 landowners that had a right to vote on the use of the property. We object to the misinformation that has been disseminated by the Board of Directors to justify the 2015 beach monitoring, especially the claims that a result of the beach monitor, the beach was cleaner, safer, more family friendly, none of which is true. This misinformation denigrates not only the many Seacoast owners and residents who have worked so hard over the years to keep the beach clean and to enlarge and replenish it with resident donations, but also denigrates the dozens of Seacoast residents who, unlike the members of the current BOD, have regularly used the beach for many years. Our beach has always been safe, clean, and family-friendly, and has not suddenly become so as a result of the 2015 beach use monitoring program. I went to the police department to ask for records of complaints of illegal misbehavior at the beach. There are 3 instances: teenagers hanging at the boulders, the parking issue that had to be resolved with the neighbors, until this year. And the predominant phone calls were from people who harassed on the public way by the monitor. and I will finish with this. This summer, we were subjected to 4 weeks of harassment endorsed by the Board of Directors, which according to a letter from the town manager, which I read, dated July 24th, Mr. Setti and Mr. Frawley were not only told once, this office has previously informed you, were not only told once, but had to be told a second time that Bayside Drive was a public way, and despite knowing that they were breaking the law, they persisted in this illegal harassment of their neighbors on the public way until the town ordered them to stop. In regards to the complaints on disorderly conduct, 0. I talked to several patrolmen who have 40 years of experience, and the only 3 instances are the ones I described. We do not have an issue with trying to pay the bills of the beach. We have an issue with the fact that you have to pay $300 to the association who we don't trust, and I own 2 houses. I would give $300 a year to use the beach, but they have not set up a financial vehicle for people who don't want to join to be responsible to pay for their bills. And we understand that with an asset like the beach, our legal rights come with a responsibility to support that. But they won't meet us halfway. They tell us what we have to do, and they don't ask. As building the clubhouse to a tune of $1 million, because 275 people wanted it on land that 875 property owners had the right to vote on, and they did not allow it. They steamrolled it into existence, and they continue to act that way. I am done with my remarks. I had asked earlier in the letter I gave to you to allow Mr. Sullivan, who is an elder statesman on our group, to offer the last comment. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to be the last comment, but I'd like to encourage that we are all going to try to tone it down a little bit. You are a community who's going to be living together, and so if we can, we're going to try to do our best to come up with some resolution, help you through this. But I just want to try to be working towards a more civil discourse about this, please. So the next person you said was going to be?
Thank you.
Is there someone else who'd like to speak in opposition?
Stephen Covell, 79 Seacoast Shores. I'm not a legal squire, whether it's a public way, private way, or whatever, but the access has always been there. And most of the residents around me feel that this public way has been there forever, and that this is going to create a privatization of a public way, and that this is just going to open the floodgates. You're going to have every single development in town having the town abandon their public access in favor of whatever neighborhood or group wants to take it. It's been open. I grew up with Marge Benoit's kids. I've been there many, many years also, and there's never been a problem down there. There's been rowdy kid issues. Those happen at every single beach in town, and we're now shutting them down and handing them over to homeowners associations to stop that. There's nothing's perfect. There will be a few problems now and then, but everybody's always had access, and there's never been a problem, and the neighborhood has always stepped up when needed to support and fulfill the beach.
Is there
Thank
any
you for
other?
your time.
Sir, is there any other public access to the water besides this one?
There are right-of-ways, but they're not to a beach. Most of them just end at the water's edge. And
But there are a few-
the right-of-ways are very small. They're not road size.
Right, but there is certain requirements for public access. I just want to check to see if there are other ones, because if there aren't any other ones, then that would put us in a little bit different position to require that there have to be some.
Okay.
Someone in the back? There's someone who was walking forward.
Hi, I'm John O'Brien, Edgewater Drive East. I'm also a member of Seacoast Shores Association. I don't know of any organizational unit that's polarized a peninsula like this, and I've been there for 21 years. If I wanted to create an illusion of erosion, what I would do is wait for high tide or wait for a hurricane to come upon us and take a picture of that to amplify a problem that probably did exist, but we don't have incontrovertible proof that it did. Now, there's a photo, and I trust that the photo was valid. But nevertheless, in 2005, there was an erosion problem. But if you call the assessor's office right now, the taxes on that property is under $20. And why? Because you got a tidal flow there. If I wanted to accentuate the problem, I wait for a hurricane, I'd ask for high tide, I take a picture, I present the data to you. If I didn't want to present that, I could go the opposite way. All right, wait for a drought or wait for something to come along, and I showed the extreme. But the thing that I can't understand is that I've been to a couple meetings in recent past, and we've asked to delineate where our monies are going. And they show us a pie chart. And when I say that, I mean Dick Setti and all of his group there, the members of the so-called country club, because right now it's patrician against pleb. You go to the beach, you see the rich, the poor, all right? You got to sit on this side. I know I'm rambling on and it's redundant, but nevertheless, my daughter works for a news agency, all right? And one of the weather women came down, and she doesn't belong to the peninsula. But the reason she was there with her husband and child is because the husband had such an unbelievable childhood there that he just wanted to show off the beach, the area. If this guard was there at the time, he would have prevented that. My wife goes for a walk. There's 3 little girls trying to get in. And there's this big 6'4" bodyguard saying, "What's your name? Where do you live?" Now you don't need that. It worked for us in the past, and there's no reason why it can't work in the future. If we just, try to understand where the money goes, but you've never given us the opportunity to see where our money is going.
Okay, I'm afraid that with stick to the only issue that we can be dealing with tonight. There are a lot of issues that you guys have mentioned tonight that the Board of Selectmen is not going to be able to authorize.
You don't have to. Basically, all I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of dissension within the ranks.
It's very clear.
Let me just finalize one thing. When they take a vote, all right, it's from the members of the club. But it doesn't represent the entire peninsula, like Ed Moritz just said. And that's all I want to say. Okay. But if you look at the right-of-ways, and this is an example of where they're going to go with the beach perhaps, the right-of-ways haven't been touched in 21 years, and yet they say they maintain them. All right?
I'm really worried about getting in there. They said, this kind of thing. Mr. Setti?
May I address?
I would hope you're going to be addressing what the request is, not what other people have said. And we really don't want to get into issues.
I will.
It's against association. Merely that you're requesting us to withhold the cease and desist order.
On the beach monitoring, residents were allowed. Residents with their guests were allowed.
Okay, I don't want to get in this argument. The other people have said that isn't true. You're saying it is true.
Well, this is an important one. It's printed on our signs.
Right, but we've heard other residents say no, even if they are residents, they weren't allowed. And so we can't get into testimony that one person's saying one thing and somebody else is saying the opposite.
They probably weren't allowed because they were reluctant to show proof of identity. I'm required to do that, and residents are required to do that. But both association members and their guests are allowed. Residents and their guests are allowed.
So you're saying every time...
The difference is that residents may not assign their guests to the beach.
You're saying every time an association member showed up, they were required to show ID?
Correct.
Every single time an association member showed up, well, unless they know them. Okay, but now you're getting into, if I were going to the beach, there's no way I would show up with my driver's license. It wouldn't occur for me that I needed to go with my driver's license to the beach. And so it is going to get into the people that they know, and the people that they don't know, it's going to be treated differently. And so I can understand why...
We allow driver's license, utility bills, some means of doing that. We had
I understand.
It was a very fair method. I'd like to make... Mrs. Benoit made an error. The police detail monies are in the dues, and they are indeed paying for the police details.
Okay.
And she was incorrect And then I've addressed the entrance at the beach. I would like to make one additional point.
Okay, but
when we collected money for the renourishment of the beach in 2004 and 5, a lot of residents contributed, but 92% of the money came from association members. And may I make one point? The financials of the association.
I don't want to hear about the financials.
No, they're posted on our website every month.
Okay, please sit down. Sir in the back.
Thank you.
Excuse me, please. Sorry, I have a little Parkinson's disease, and I have trouble walking. My name's Tom Doherty. I live at 22 Woodside Drive, and I was denied access to the beach, even though I'm an investor member to the clubhouse. I'm also paid my dues. They told me I couldn't have access to the beach. I had to show them an ID, and I said, I don't have to show you an ID. I live out here in Seacoast Shores. This is what we demand. If you don't show us ID, I will have you arrested. So I'm saying I'm upset, and what it is, why should I have to show an ID? They did not the authority. And I said, are you a police officer? And they said no. So I paid my dues on an investor membership, and they denied me access to the beach. And I'm sure they've done it to more than one person. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Ma'am. I think we have most of the issues out here, so if there's something, a new issue that you think we don't understand, please add that.
Hi, I'm Muriel Tice. I live on 15 Croydon Drive, off of Seacoast Shores. We came here and built a home in a wooded lot maybe 17 years ago. At the time when we came, that area had like a negative connotation because of the crime and just not a very safe environment to be. But we thought the value was good. The neighbors where we live, I'm going to backtrack, back in the 50s, before the 50s, Seacoast Shores was a community that was owned by the government. And if you go down Seacoast and you look at all the houses, they're all basically barracks. And the military, they would do bivouacs on Washburn Island. They'd cross that bridge, and then they would do their things. And then there was a point that property was released, and the public could come. There's some neighbors here, my neighbors, that built camp houses. So you would see the barracks, and then you see little camps, and they still are there in part of the Cape. We bought, it was grandfathered, the lots were grandfathered, fairly small. We built a home with a garage. Neighbor across the way built a home. Another person built a home. So we have 3 new homes built within 5 years. There are still some campsites that have been, one is really fallen apart, but the other one has been renovated, and the other one, they've maintained it for 50 some odd years. And really nice neighbors. The reason I'm here today is because I'm a little upset because I was just going to work, and there was some concern about what's going on with Seacoast. And I love the area. I always walk down to the point. I've noticed some changes over the years because I walk maybe every other day, and I do it in the wintertime, I do it in the summer, I do it in the fall. And I noticed like the big houses that were built up, you just can see that there's been some changes. Where that house, the clubhouse is now, back when we were here, there was a clubhouse, and it was just a cinder block house. There was access down to the water. Children would play. You could take your boat, go in there. And it was a community thing. You let someone know for $15 you could have your family and have a clam bake, whatever. That's not happening anymore, but it's still a beautiful area, and I think we have a right. My deed says that I have a right to the beach. There are right-of-ways for anyone on Seacoast Shores that live there. Every 4th Street, there are some people that you don't see them, you don't know where they are because they block them off. But I think, you know, we got to get this straightened out. This is not right. And everybody should have their right to use the beach, and there shouldn't be this commotion or this kind of coercion to join and to pay more. I think it's wrong.
Just as a representative from that side, can I ask you one question?
Yes.
Do you feel there should be a restriction on to who goes to the beach throughout Falmouth and Cape Cod at this beach?
At this beach?
Yeah. Should it be restricted to Seacoast Shores people only?
I don't think so. It's not a gated community.
I know, but I mean, it is a part of your deed that you have a right to use this beach.
I do have a right to use this beach.
And I don't, because I'm not a resident of Seacoast Shores. Should there be a difference between my use of it and your use of it?
That's a good question.
And if you feel there is, how do we distinguish between the two of us?
Well,
what is it that we can have so that you could say, yep, you have a right to it because it's part of your deed, and I don't because it's not part of my deed?
I think the location of it, you go down to Seacoast Shores, there's like maybe 1,000 homes or less than that. But that beach is on Bayside.
Right.
And you've got this, let's put
So
this
just the
in
physical
perspective.
access of itself is going to make it hard for me to get there.
Seacoast Shores, if you look at it on a map, the peninsula itself, it's got the deepest water access coming in, okay? It's got direct access into the Sound. It is the best sweet property in all of Falmouth. I just think, as far as right-of-way, we have, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure we have the issues out there. I would like to give the board a chance to ask questions so that we have the information we have to proceed. Mrs. Flynn?
Well, my question, how many people can occupy the beach at one time? Is there, I mean, just 100, 200? I've been down there. I went down there one time when Joe Apicella was the president of the association, because there were issues. That was like, what, 8, 10 years ago. And so I have a very good picture in my mind of the beach. You know, I have been there. I've walked the street and the easement and all of that. But I never could figure out, even being there, about how many people could actually be on the beach at one time. Does anybody? Do you have
200 is a very, very crowded.
200. Okay, thank you. That's.
Would everyone feel that 200 is about right?
Unless there are shacks there. Excuse me, it's a move in 200. You don't go to the beach for the whole day very often.
Sure.
Yeah,
But,
at any one time.
okay, that's a good, okay, sir.
I'm Richard Kelleher. I live at 49 Ellsworth Drive. I grew up as a young person. I was taught this is a free country. You know, along with freedoms, I believe that, you know, I ought to be able to walk down the street with my dog. You know, I ought to be able to go in the library and rent a book. I find it over the top that an 8-year-old kid has to show an ID to go to a beach in a small community. It's over the top. I mean, to me, that kid probably feels like a Jewish person in Nazi Germany. You know, it's over the top. It's, you know, the point of reason was lost.
All right, we've got the point. Any other questions from the board? Okay. Sir, is there something?
I'm Dennis McHugh, and I live on Seacoast Shores. I just want to make one comment. I think we should all pay for the
You have to go to the microphone, please.
for the $300. I think we should all pay for it. But I just want to say that I think you would be more than welcome to come down to the beach. I'm a type of person that if you want to sit next to me, I don't care where you come from. Leave the place clean, you know, behave yourself in front of my grandkids, and you're always welcome. That's not the issue here. That's not the issue of who goes there. It's never been crowded. The beach has never been, we've never been turned away because there's no room there. And I don't think that's, you know, you've got a lot of patience listening to all this stuff, because this is internal. This is something we have to figure out ourselves, whether this $300 is reasonable, how much of this $300 goes to the beach, and so on. What we're here for tonight is to find out who's got the authority over that bit of property.
And I would hope one solution may be, because I understand the clubhouse is one issue, that maybe there's a dues, it's a beach dues, and maybe there's a club dues, and I'll let you guys worry
That's
about
right.
that.
We have to straighten that out.
Because there is some cost within beach nourishment that I understand that is not something the town's gonna take on. I don't think there's any way that, I mean, it's not gonna ever be a town beach that we're talking about. Do you have a question?
You're welcome to the beach as far as I'm concerned.
No, but I don't know if it's time for me to make a comment on what I've heard this evening.
I just
If
want to make
that's
sure that
you want
we're
to,
sort
is
of
everyone
having our
else
discussion
kind
now
of
at this
finished?
point. Okay.
Okay, I'll wait.
Hi, I'm Lisa Koval, and I live at 79 Seacoast. Part of what you're saying sounds wonderful, in that everybody would contribute just to the beach. And that was brought up at one of our community meetings, and we were told that they were not interested in going à la carte, that the person who was doing the presentation said he would resign before he would go à la carte. So
Well, that's so glad I don't have to decide this one for you. That's going to be your guys. I mean, thank you.
Okay.
This gentleman here, I speak to him, but he's going.
Hello, my name's Mark Moniz. I reside at 14 Knollwood Drive. I was born and raised in Falmouth, and I grew up on this beach. And we have a lot of issues going on, there's no doubt about that. As someone who's grown up there, raised there, from my perspective, this really isn't about the beach. This is really about power, money, and control. If they can control the beach and who comes on and who doesn't, if they can force the homeowners that didn't want to join the association, and it's been stated by Dick that that was one of the worst problems that they created with Seacoast by not forcing people when they made the deeds to join the association. I'm really sad at what I've seen happen to my neighborhood over the years here, but I guess that's the crux of what you're feeling here is the emotions coming from people. It's not really about the beach. It's about power and money and control. And if they are given the control of the beach, you heard about all the wonderful things that their association has supported and they feel so wonderful about. What you're not hearing are the hundreds of residents that live there that are lifelong residents. Grew up with Mrs. Benoit's children. You're not hearing about those, and a lot of us, I'm here tonight, but I'll tell you now, there are a lot of those that would like to be here tonight that can't be here tonight, that don't support what they've done and are continuing to do. And they want it stopped. We want it to go back. Mr. Chairman, you would have always been welcomed at our beach. I grew up on that beach. I never saw anyone get turned away. If you came down and it was too crowded, you went, you found something else to do. You come back later. I'm amazed to hear about the crime and the problems on that beach because I never really saw them. And I didn't realize that we were doing so much destruction by throwing sand into the water as kids. I'm sorry for that. I've also seen those very pictures, I've seen those events at that beach. And the funny thing was, the next day when you go down to the beach, and the storm had subsided and the surge went away, the beach was back. I think it's just more evidence of the disingenuousness. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Arlene Schubert. I live at 391 Edgewater Drive West, and I've owned other properties in there. I've been a homeowner there for 25 years, at least in one home. I've raised my boys here as well. And I feel that as on my deeds or on many deeds that I've owned, it says that there is access to everything, like ownership with everyone else. With ownership comes responsibility, and I feel that some people have shucked their responsibility. Thank you.
Can I make one comment? I live at 49 Ellsworth Drive. I think it comes down to the haves and the have-nots. And the people who have not are being pushed out of our own beach. And that's the way I feel about it. And there was a comment made at one of the association meetings about they didn't want Pedro at the beach. Well, I would welcome Pedro at the beach, and that's what I don't like about the whole thing.
Okay. I really think we have the information we need.
The husband said it.
I just want to make a comment.
The husband said it.
Don Weymouth, 91 Edgewater Drive West. There's a lot of contention people have had, and I just want to make some things clear. There were probably some mistakes from the guy that ran the guard service at the beach. He knows most of the people, but a couple of his employees didn't. He would probably recognize 3/4 of the people in the neighborhood. Those that he didn't, when his other employees were there, they did ask to check IDs. Probably a bad idea. I don't know how else to tell. But regarding haves and have-nots, and I want everybody on both sides to hear this.
So what I want to proceed in that question is, were you really having lots of people who weren't a part of Seacoast Shores showing up at the beach?
Bob McLaughlin, the vice president of the association,
Just you, please.
who was not here, who cannot be here tonight, did a survey last year, 3 different weekends, of everybody that was at the beach.
Yep.
Over a third of those had no relationship to Falmouth, no relationship to Seacoast Shores. They weren't renting, they were coming down for the day to use the beach, because it's a free beach.
And where were they parking?
They were parking various places in front of people's houses, all up and down the streets, on Winthrop, on
Okay.
Plymouth, etc.
Okay, I hear you're saying. Okay. All right, continue with
Okay.
you. Finish up, please.
So the point on, there's a lot of people thinking, big contention. The average value of the home of the people that are members.
Okay, this really is not relevant to what
Okay.
we're here to discuss tonight.
Okay,
That's
but
something-
we do pay $2.5 million a year in taxes, everybody.
Okay.
So it is something I think that's important on that, where when people say have and have-nots, there's a difference between $274,000 average home value and $262,000 average of the people that are members versus non-members. That's not haves and have-nots.
Okay, thank you. I think we're really done.
Really?
Yep.
Can I answer your question? You
Sure.
asked a question about
Okay.
people coming.
Yep.
Okay, Joni Bell, 63 Ellsworth. Every day, a daycare center from Mashpee, every day, with a large car, SUV, with about 6 children, 3 adults, came to that beach every day.
This summer,
Yes,
and was allowed to go.
yes, from Mashpee. No, they were not allowed. Allowed to go?
How were they allowed on the beach?
Whoa.
Let me finish. Okay, thank you.
Before anybody was monitoring it.
Okay.
They came every day, not just this year, last year as well.
Okay, I understand.
That was their.
Okay, thank you.
So their-
Thank you. Okay,
He has a question.
you done? Ms. Mock, okay. We're going to do our best to come up with our decision.
Mr. Chairman, can I make one point? I'm sorry. If,
You have to go to the microphone if I'm going to let you speak.
I'm very sorry. We're making accusations that there are people showing up who have nothing to do with this beach. Well, do you know whose guest that may have been? Just because someone went down to the beach and said, oh, you don't live here? Oh, okay, and especially if that's the kind of outcome that you want to have. I'm not saying that there aren't people that have used it that didn't live there, but I assume that the vast majority is, when I went there regularly, were residents and or guests.
Okay, thank you. Rebecca.
Okay.
I think we have all the information we need to be able to make our decision. Thank you very much. I think we did start about an hour and a half ago on this.
Just 10 minutes.
I think what I want to say about Seacoast Shores, and just thinking about it personally, is the fact that the first time I heard about Seacoast Shores would have been in the 60s. And it wasn't nice, and it wasn't good. And there were things that were happening there that the police were there, and it just wasn't a place that you wanted to think about that maybe you would go and you would take children. As the years went on, and the development of an association, which they bought from a private entity, whoever, and I don't know the names of the people, I don't know any of that, but whoever has been managing or taking care of or leading any of the residents in Seacoast Shores has shown incredible growth. The prices of the houses have gone up. People today that are going to this beach always assumed that they had that beach over to the marker, which happens to be the Fay residents. So as I come from the idea of what I thought about Seacoast Shores was not a positive thing, to the point that 50, 60 years later, it's an excellent place to live. There's wonderful people that live there. There's not a beach big enough to hold 900 families and their guests, and there needs to be rules and regulations because you're managing more people in Seacoast Shores than some small town would have. So I give an awfully lot of credibility to whoever was president of the organization, whoever decided that there should be some kind of a clubhouse. Whoever's making decisions have done so in a positive way. The Seacoast Shores is a very nice place to live with people who are not continuously calling the police department. There was a period of time, I understand, between the 1960s and 2000 that people sold their homes in Seacoast Shores. And they could not handle the crime that was happening there. You don't hear that today. The idea that there is 53 feet of sand or beach, that there is this much discussion about it, when everyone is doing such a fabulous job in a community that was not always the most fabulous place to be. So over the years, what I have seen that has happened is because there is leadership, there's direction, they know the bills that have to be paid, the erosion. Whenever I looked at that area of erosion, they didn't come and say to the town, our beach is eroding. They simply went door to door and got the money and got the permit from the town, and they took care of the erosion. So I think that 53 feet, and the thing I'd be the most concerned about is if there's 53 feet, you can come from anywhere, and you can do whatever you want on that 53 feet if that doesn't belong to the association. They need to have that easement because the control of things is what has made Seacoast Shores what it is today. So my preaching to you has been, I am in favor, I'm very much in favor for them to be able to continue on what they are planning to do, and they need the 53 feet so they don't have another problem.
See, where I would agree with you is if the change were only this year and all of a sudden things were cleaned up. I think the change you're talking about happened 25, 30 years ago when they really... It's this year that we're having the problem. It's this year when we're having residents who are angrily being turned away where the town got brought into it. There wasn't this problem before of this kind of animosity over the beach. And that's where I'm torn as to what we can do to help resolve it. And
I would just say, when I lived at New Silver Beach, you had to have a membership. And we did go to a table with all of the names, and that was New Silver. And you did pay your dues, and that is how you did access the beach. So I would assume that if you have a community and you have a beach, you do what New Silver did. You want to use the beach, you became a member, and our family name was on a list.
again, that isn't something we can tell them to do.
No, but it's the way I think about if you live in a community and you're on the beach.
Sam?
Well, I draw a very different conclusion from Rebecca. I really
Okay.
disagree entirely. I started taking scouts across the Washburn Island, and there were lots of solid families, respectable citizens. Yes, there were pockets of problems with drug in certain houses and what have you, but the vast majority of the people were solid citizens. I would have been happy to have gone to them if I was in a problem, and I'm sure they would have helped me. And they certainly helped my scouts get access to Washburn Island from docks that they offered to me. I think that portrayal is a gross generalization. I think this is a community that has grown and it sees
Well,
itself
I
as
think
a
I
community.
said that.
And I'm sorry.
Excuse
me.
Oh, wow.
I deserve the opportunity to speak without
whoops.
interruption.
Oh,
I'll
wow.
appeal to my chairman if there's any other.
Proceed, Mr.
Oh,
Patterson.
my goodness.
And I think what I want to say is that what I hear is a community that's always kind of welcomed people and made it a family-friendly kind of environment. And I would hate to see you become more restrictive and less inviting of outsiders. I've been past that beach a number of times, both in boats and what have you. I've never really seen it that crowded. And I hear the testimony that the beach comes and goes based on the tide and the surges that occur. I think it's up to you guys to resolve it. And I think the easement, in a way, sort of protects it as being a community beach. I'm in favor of maintaining things.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you, well, I should have started earlier. Please hold the applause. We really want to get through this.
So I'm in favor of maintaining the easement as it is.
Mrs. Flynn?
Well, I'm thinking about this. I mean, I see Seacoast Shores as a very large community in and of itself. You're actually kind of bigger than the town of Truro. I don't know if you've ever thought about it like that. So in a way, you're sort of a town within a town. I mean, you have a lot of people who live there and a lot of homes there. And I think, as both Becky and Sam have said, over the years, there's been a lot of change. And change as a result of growth, change as a result of maybe some income disparity among the community. I mean, those things happen. We see it all over, not just in your community, but we see it in the whole town. And that kind of change makes it difficult for people who are used to the way things used to be and how good they used to be back then. And believe me, I'm one of those believers. Things were good back then. But it's really sometimes very hard to come to grips with the here and now. And I think what you're experiencing is that kind of change, and how do you come to grips with that change? I think the beach is sort of the, what do I want to say, the rock in the hard place. It's kind of the jumping off point. It's the one thing that's common to all. So all of the conversation centers around the beach, but it's really much bigger than the beach. And I think you've all expressed that tonight. And we can't, I think we can't really solve your problems. I think you've given us a clear understanding of what your issues are and how important they are to you, and how important it is for you to want to be able to live in a harmonious community, because that's what you had before, and you want to keep it that way. And how can we help you get there? I don't know yet, but I can say we're going to give it a try, and we're going to work with you and see if we can help you get to that point where you want to be.
A few points I'll make. One is, certainly up to where it's paved, there cannot be any signage excluding passage there. That is a public way. The town has an easement to it. No one can restrict that from the shores of the Fays, because it certainly is not owned by them. So certainly up to that paved point. The only place that can still be disputed is from the pavement down to the shore. And, what we have done right now is saying there's a cease and desist order, not to, that's the disputed part. But the signage right now, and I understand that the guard was actually on the road itself, and I think that's something that we can't, we can say that can't happen, and it's inappropriate for that to be on what's considered a public way. But beyond that is where we could still say, because there was a bridge across there,
That's right.
as the public way very well could exist right up, according to the documentation, right up to the water's edge. And that's really what's left for us to decide about that last bit from the paved part to the beach, or to the water.
I disagree a little bit with what you've said, because I think the limit of what is before us is whether we continue to support the town manager in the cease and desist order. There's, beyond the scope of that is really a question for the courts if the parties choose, which is always the worst way to go and always the most expensive way to go. All I've heard in this room is how every person has a common interest in the beach and in the community. And I think that the strong advice the board can give is for the attempts at a meeting of the minds in the way of a mediation must go forward, because the town can't continue to police this situation to support the easement that the town council has stated is valid. So at this point, I think the cease and desist order has to stand, but I hope it's not going to stand for too much longer, because I don't think that that's ever the best result for a community.
I think that the rules that the Seacoast Shore Association has come up for the beach in general, there are many of them that are very good, that I think this entire community would approve of and would support. And I just think there are a few of them that need to be changed so that the community gets to continue to feel it's a community beach. I think that they'd be thrilled not to have open fires and dogs on the beach during the summertime. I think most people would say, yeah, actually I agree with that. What I agree with, we're not going to have open bottles at that beach. I think a lot of the community say, yep, those are things we can all agree on. And is there a way that can get to agreement as to how can you make it so that people can come to the beach who live in Seacoast Shores as their deeded rights allow to happen?
Levels of membership have already been discussed. I think that's probably a fruitful area.
But I agree, I do agree with you. I think we have to maintain the cease and desist order until someone comes back and says, this is our new plan. We would like, a larger group of people do feel comfortable with these rules being posted, but given the present circumstances, I agree that we need to support what the town manager's done with the cease and desist order.
Just to say that, if you look at our agenda item, it says Seacoast Shores Association Beach Control Proposal. But I'm not sure that that's really what we're here to do. And I know there was the cease and desist order, and I know there's the issue of the beach itself, and the fact that it was an easement, and the town's right to easements and all that sort of thing. But I think Julian wants to add something to that.
Well, they had asked that this be put on the agenda, that their proposal with the request being the three items of, withdraw the cease and desist order and the two other conditions.
If I might, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify my understanding, I worked closely with town council when this letter was issued. In fact, he was at more than one meeting with me and representatives of the Seacoast Shores Association prior to the letter being issued. And I just want to underscore my understanding, this is not discretionary. This is a statement of the law. That is my understanding. And town council can certainly be invited to clarify that further. But my understanding is that, again, as stated in the letter, both the order of taking and the plan show that this public way ends at the waters of Eel Pond. It's a public way. We don't have the authority to assign the public way arbitrarily to a third party to manage. It is a public way. And that is what the easement states. That's what town council advised me. And that's what we attempted to portray in the letter. So it's not a matter of exercising discretion to request that something be ceased. It's clarification of the legal existence of this public way, as I understand it through town council. So I just wanted to share, again, my understanding of that with regard to where I was coming from when this letter was authored.
Rebecca?
I agree with what was just said, but at that point, when it was water's edge, it ended at, the water's edge was at the end of the pavement.
No. Not 1975. In 75 it went, the water's edge, you know, it was a much larger beach. It almost went all the way to Washburn's Island. Okay.
Keep in mind, it says to the waters of Eel Pond. So if Eel Pond, if the water moves in Eel Pond, the easement moves, because it goes to the water in Eel Pond. That's what town council advised me.
Army Nourishment had it.
Yep.
And made it 75 feet long. In 75, you could walk along that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
I think we should take this under advisement, and that we should pursue the information that we have been given from the Seacoast Shores Association and all the testimony we've heard tonight, and then come back in the next 3 to 4 weeks before this, we're approaching winter, so we really have a little bit of time to work on this before the spring, but I don't think we should wait that long. But we should put something together and get back to the people of Seacoast Shores.
Well, I guess,
With some definitive decisions that we can only make because they're legal, but maybe some other options that might be available after we have a discussion about it.
okay.
It's far too late. I think we need to synthesize the information we've received tonight and then to act on it.
I'm comfortable with putting things under advisement.
So I would move that we take it under advisement.
I'll second.
Motion and second, take it under advisement. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? One opposed. We'll take it under advisement. Thank you all very much for your time and information. We will get back to you.
A 2-minute stretch?
Yes, please.
Besides, they have to leave anyway, and that's going to take a while.
I'm paying this extra.
I know. Yeah, that's why it's... what everybody
Did you? 2 years ago? Oh, great.